This recording is for the detail and finish work of the Joy for Christmas ornament. After all the base coating is done, we're going to add dry brush highlights. And these highlights are going to be at the top of the hat, going across the bottom of the hat with Snow White. All the highlights are in Snow White. It's also going to be on the center of the mittens, the cuff of the mittens. And across the scarf. And down the tail sections of the scarf. You're going to do the center of each side. Highlights are pretty bright, so you can go back over them. After those highlights are done, you're going to take out a liner brush with Snow White. Loosen up your paint by adding water. We're going to add some line work at the top of the hat. We're going to add some stripes. And on each of the mittens, the hand part only. And on the scarf has two sections, so we're going to start up here with our lines. Don't come all the way down. And then we're going to go on each tail. We're going to add decorative lines that are kind of curved. Then we're going to take out a little bit of bright salmon. And we're going to add some lines for the fringe on the scarf. This fringe can kind of crisscross over each other. Once you have your bright salmon in, then we're going to take vintage pink, and you're going to add some more lines, not quite as many. Just a little bit. You're not going to really even see them. I know you really can't see them on the camera either. And then you're going to go back as the final lines are going to be in Snow White. And once everything is shaded, these will pop out a little bit more. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is get a flat brush. Half inch is about as high as it or is about as big as it should be. So I like to use like a 10 or an 8. And with Bright Salmon, we're going to shade the top of the hat going across, blend it out really well. And then you're going to do the bottom. Okay. You're going to go right underneath also. Okay. And right above his face. Okay. That's all in Bright Salmon. Continuing on, you're going to shade the mittens. It's going to be across the hand. So it's going to be right next to the cuff. It's going to go up the bottom side of each hand. The bottom of each cuff right next to his wrist. You're going to add a little tiny float separating the thumb from the hand a little bit. Okay. Then we're going to float the scarf. It's going to be the bottom of this top section, so you just start in the middle and you're going to go straight across, and it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Okay. If you get any extra paint like I did on his face, you just go back in and wipe it out with a clean brush. Okay. When this is dry, go back in and you're going to just float the bottom section of the scarf. You can also add a little bit of a knot, and that's just at the end with a vertical float. Okay, the next float is going to be the right side on each tail. So it's going to be right here and right here with Bright Salmon, but I'm going to flip the piece upside down. And put this float in just like this, and the one next to it just like this. Okay. And you can soften these up a little bit. Oops, I used the wrong brush, using a mop brush. Okay, so those are all the shading. So now we're going to go back to our Snow White, and we're going to add some more highlights. To the top of the mittens, just a stroke right across the thumb on each one. Okay. Float the top of the scarf next to his face. We're just adding some highlight color. If it's not enough, go back over it. I like to soften it. The little tap of the mop brush. And you're going to do the same thing on the bottom section. This divides the top from the bottom. Now you can go back in and add some of those lines back if you lost them. Just a quick little okay. Then we're going to take a stipple brush, whatever you have is fine. We're going to stipple some fur. Lightly right here on the bottom part of his hat. It's very light. We're going to do the mittens right next to the hand part on the cuff. Okay. Now we're going to do the face. Now I didn't use I have a pattern for it, but I'm not going to use the pattern because it's simple enough to where you can just eyeball where the features should go. You can mark them though. But what we're going to do first is the cheeks. So you're going to take a little vintage pink, a little bit of white. You're going to make a light pink. But then I added just a tad of the bright salmon. So that pink is a little more on the orange side. If you want it a little orangier, you can add more bright salmon. And then you got to really wipe it out good on your palette and then on a paper towel, or however you choose to get your paint off. And as I'm looking at the snowman, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, and I'm just going to put a little circular motion right here for a cheek, and another one right here. Okay, they look a little different, I think, on camera. You know what, and as I'm looking at this, I've realized I've lost one of the lines on the mitten, so I'm just going to go back in. make them a little bit darker than they were. Okay, so the next step for the face is you're going to take a little bit of lamp black and a very small flat, so like a 4 would work. You can also use a number 2 round, but we're just going to squiggle in some color. So use your flat and get the paint just on the tip of the brush. You only need to blend it just a tad. It's not a float, just you don't want a ton of paint on there. You're going to go onto the cheek, but you're going to start higher. And you're just going to do a little back and forth. Mine got a little bit wide, but that's okay. His eyes will just be bigger. Okay. I'm going to make it a little bit darker though. Just like that. And we're going to let that dry. In the meantime, we're going to take a little Warm Sunset, or whatever orange you want to use. We're just going to make a little nose. And use a round brush. We're just going to, kind of like how we did the eyes, we're just going to wiggle that in. Okay, because I did the nose a little bigger just to match the eyes. Now with Crisp Blue, we're going to go back over the black. This will be the iris is blue. And the same thing with the black, but you're not going to cover the whole thing. You're going to wiggle in some color, but you want that black showing. So you don't want to go all the way over to either edge. Okay, and then we're going to let that dry. Your nose should be dry. And we can take a little burnt sienna, which I don't have out, so I'm going to use some soft black. But it is burnt sienna. You just want to put a little bit of a float on his nose underneath, or not underneath the nose, on the bottom. And if you don't have burnt sienna, which most of you should, soft black works. Doesn't look too bad at all because it's so small. You just want to put a float right at the bottom of his nose. Okay, so again, take your liner and we're going to add some eyelashes. To both eyes. Also add a couple little eyebrows. Just to give them some personality. And then with Snow White, I'm going to add a little highlight dot left side towards the top, and then a little line, comma stroke coming down. And the mouth is also done in black. And the mouth is 2 little lines curved, like a curved V. Just like that. And then a little heart is added on each. So it looks like it's a little heart mouth. You can make it a little pointy, but it's right there in the center. Okay. Okay, next let's get out a little bit of gray sky, or slate gray, I'm sorry. We got to add a little bit of shading on the snowman itself, or snow woman, I think in this case. And it's just going to be really light floats. Under, on the face, kind of under the hat. I know most of you are probably thinking this should have been done before the eyes, and you're right, but that's not how I wrote them in the directions. So I'm going to do it this way just for the purpose of this video, but it should have been done prior to the eyes going on, or the whole face actually. Anyways, just work around the eyes. You're going to go around the sides and above the scarf. Okay. Now the body's a little bit different. There's not a whole lot on here, so we can go ahead and take the slate gray and we're going to float on the wrist, along the side of his body, and around the shoes. I'm going to go under the scarf. Along the side. And along this wrist. And along his body, or his shoes. Let's start at the bottom. And that's all the floats for the body. We are going to add a little bit of white on the shoes. They need a little bit of a highlight. So you can go all the way down. You can just do the tips if you want. But we need to make sure those stand out a bit. Okay. Now we're going to do some finishing details. And with a liner brush and some Snow White, we need little snowflakes on the scarf. So I just lined them in. Here and there. And then down on the tails. Oh, you know what? I think I just realized we missed a highlight. So let's finish the snowflakes. And then we can go back in. Okay. Forgot to highlight with a float of Snow White on the tails. So that would be right here on the left side and on this left side. Okay. Now with a stylus, once you have all your snowflakes in, with a stylus, we can add some dots. First, we're going to go with the bright salmon, and we're going to do the hat, the pom-pom, add some polka dots. We're going to add some to each of the snowflakes to the center. Okay, we're going to add them to the cheeks. And I almost think I like it added to the eye instead of that little highlight we did before. If you can put a little, the dip dot might make it stand out a little more. There's also dip dots on the mittens. In order to get them the exact same size, you have to go back each time and clean your stylus and re-dip, but I'm just kind of faking it. Just getting close to the same size just by kind of rubbing them in there. Okay. Then there's also dip dots at the edge of the scarf where the fringe is. We need to add a little bit of snow on his nose. I just take a liner, just kind of lay some of that Snow White. Okay, paint right across there. We also need a little snowflake on the shoes. And then you can add a little dip dot for that. Center in the center. Okay, the last thing on him will be, well, I should have said this before, but on his cheeks, they can be, instead of just little dip dots, they can be little snowflakes or X's, whatever you want. I kind of messed that one up, but that's okay. He's kind of smeary, but he looks all right. We're going to leave him. But on his body, do a couple little X's that are curved in bright salmon. And then add white dots in the center. Okay. All right, so that's it for the snow person, snow girl. And now we're going to move on to the banner. And with slate gray, we're going to float just a little bit of shading on here. The shading is going to go all the way across the top. I'm going to start this way. I definitely need to soften that up. Okay. So with some slate gray, which mine is a little darker because I mixed my own, but at least you can see it. And then also, I'm going to add just a tad to the sides right here. Oops. I don't think you can really see that. So we're going to do the sides here and here, the left side of each flag. And then we're going to let it dry. The lettering, J-O-Y, you can use a pen, you can use white paint, it doesn't matter. I mean, I like using the paint just because unless you have a pen that's going to dry really quick and not run when you varnish it, it's kind of hard. So I did the letters a little thicker. You can trace them on, you can freehand them, whatever you want to do. So J. O, and then the Y. Then you're going to outline it a little bit with an accent of the bright salmon. And that just makes it go better with the snow girl and her little outfit. So you just add a little color. Just like that. So it makes it pop out a little more interesting looking than just a plain banner. Then the very last thing was with the back of a paintbrush dipped in white paint, I added 2 large dip dots. So when everything is nice and dry, you go ahead, add a little bit of glue, and you're going to glue these right on. Now you can come down a tad. You don't want them up too high, so just like that. And there you have it. If you have any questions regarding this tutorial class or recording, if you missed the class, go ahead and you can call me or email me, and I can help you if I can. Thanks. Bye-bye.